Hello, friends. We wanted to do a little, prologue, I guess. What do you call it?
A forward or a prologue.
Forward to our upcoming podcast that you're now listening to. Basically, we spoke about this on our live show last Thursday, but we recorded this episode with a lighthearted, loving look at some of our favorite or most iconic cast member roles.
That's right.
And we were all set to release that last week, and then the day before our podcast was to come out was when they announced the 700, I believe, equity acting performer cast members being laid off. So we thought that was a little not nice if we just put this out here without acknowledging that. And we spoke at length about it on our live show. So if you haven't watched that, you can watch the replay on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Zannaland. Within that live show, we talk, as I do on every podcast blog post that accompanies this, the ways that you can help cast members.
Right.
I also list 2 emails that you can write to Walt Disney World to let them know that you value entertainment at the parks and you would really, really appreciate if they brought those back.
Yeah, and that really goes a long way towards telling them what their customers, their guests, what they want.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's a big thing.
In this day and age, screaming into the void that is Twitter and other social media sometimes it has effects, but sometimes it can go, unnoticed because there is so much negativity all the time. So I think writing a personal email is really a way to get your point and your heartfelt words across to Disney. So with that said, keep that in mind as you're listening, that we had no idea when we recorded this podcast that this many people had just been laid off in some of the positions that, we talk about a little bit in the episode and things like that. So obviously 28,000, no matter what you're doing as a cast member, it's a loss and it's a devastating time for everyone. We were hoping to bring some joy and memories and just, fond moments to life in our podcast. And we hope that you appreciate that and listen with that in mind. And if you are able to help or write to Walt Disney World, please do so.
Absolutely.
And with that said, please enjoy Up the Waterfall. Thank you for listening.
Well, now you got into this mess by going down a waterfall. Now, how would you suppose we get them out of there?
By going up the waterfall?
That's right. Anything's possible in Disneyland.
Welcome, friends, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Up the Waterfall with your hosts, Scott Otis and me. I'm Zanna Otis.
I'm Scott. Hello.
Switched it up a little there and confused myself. This is episode number 45, I believe, if my calculations are correct.
Excellent. I like it.
What's funny is I have distinct memory of the 45th anniversary of Haunted Mansion, and we just celebrated something a lot larger than that, 50th.
I do too, but I also
Last
remember
year was the 50th.
the 45th anniversary of Disneyland in the year 2000.
Well, I didn't really pay attention to Disneyland back then.
That's okay. You've made up for it since then.
That's true. Anyway, episode 45, welcome. We are today discussing a fun little topic.
I agree.
Cast member roles that we wish we had. Basically, if money was not an object and you didn't need to, feed a family on this particular role, because most of these, at least for me anyway, are hourly positions.
Line range.
Which nowadays, who knows if you can support people on that kind of wage. And
It's probably best not to get into that topic just yet.
well, I'm just saying, we understand that in this particular climate, if you're listening to this as it comes out, who's wishing to be a cast member at this point in time,
I'll bet there are
still a lot of people.
Being a cast member is a thing.
It's a state of mind, I guess.
It's
perhaps.
a state of being. It's something that a lot of people really do strive for. Yeah.
I learned after being, a frontline Main Street USA cast member that I make a much better guest than cast member. However, I do still feel that there are some roles that I would love to do. It just, cast members out there, you know what I'm talking about. Depends on your manager and, what's going on in your life and stuff like that, where it's not always the dream you thought it would be. Which is probably not what you thought I was going to talk about on this episode.
I would say, I started out selling ice cream bars at Epcot.
I don't know if I could have.
In its 8th year of existence. And it was awesome. I loved it. I did love just being outside and just interacting with the guests. And
you have a much higher tolerance for things in general.
I would say I do. But yeah, it was fun. There were a variety of ice cream wagons to work at, and so it was always interesting to get a different viewpoint each day. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
When I was on Main Street, I was pretty much I opened the Main Street Athletic Club, which now is just kind of absorbed back into Disney Clothiers.
That is true.
And they even changed the marquee out front to become the House of Magic kind of thing again.
Yeah, because it used to be a card shop and a magic shop.
Yeah. So I would go between Main Street Athletic Club and Disney Clothiers, which at the time in 1995 had a whole different costume for Main Street Athletic Club. So that was always my preferred location because that was a little sailor top outfit with little knickers, I guess, plaid, like the same plaid that's in the skirts on Main Street, only turned like diagonally, and then there were these fun baggy knickers that buttoned at the knees.
I've seen the photographs.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're on Main Street USA in the summer, having an open neck compared to the polyester at the time high neck collar with the pink bow tie is what I had back then. They have changed it since, but much preferable to me to be in the Main Street Athletic Club outfit. But anyway, sometimes, very rarely, I would work the little cart that was outside there, which I guess that's still there. And one time even I got to work it when it was cold out, and I had to get a jacket, like a full-length coat from the costume department.
Nice. And
gloves. And that was very exciting for me.
I had gloves issued to me because I often worked in a freezer.
That's true. So yeah, we thought it would be fun to go over, like I said, not necessarily dream jobs, but things that this would be a fun role to have.
I thought of it in many different ways. One of which was what are some of the most iconic Disney roles?
That's true.
Or what are, as you said, one of the ones that you'd like to do, or what most people would like to do, or things that just would be fun.
Yes.
Not that any of them aren't fun, but these ones are especially fun, I think.
Well, what's funny is I always thought that who would want to be custodial, sweeping up all day and doing trash and things like that.
That we'll put a pin in that.
We've talked about that before, that you loved that sort of thing. So you get to explain why. We, of course, love and respect our custodial staff because they do so much.
That's right.
And now they do fun things with, painting characters with water and stuff like that. So, all right. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go
Of course.
First? Okay.
Beauty and brains before this age, I guess.
Well, I don't know about that. Okay, so for me personally, because this is a role I certainly never thought about growing up because I didn't really know much about it at all. But the minute I went on this attraction, I thought this would be such a fun thing to do. And that is, of course, Storybook Land canal boats.
What? You took that right off my list.
Okay, well, no, it was traditionally only girls that did it.
That is true. There was a time
when
there
are boys.
There were certain roles that were only men. I believe Jungle Cruise and the Submarine Voyage, and then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at Magic Kingdom. And then, Storybook Land canal boats and a lot of the Fantasyland attractions were exclusively female at the time.
Different times.
That's right.
But anyway, as you know, you were there. My first time, I believe, it might have been the second time, but the most memorable time on Storybook Land canal boats was with the lovely cast member, Pat. I have no idea if she's still with us or not.
She was there the last time I was there.
Okay. Well, She just made it so very special. She had this sing-songy little voice because, of course, that's an attraction that has a spiel that you have to memorize. And really, these kind of attractions that have those, like Jungle Book and in the old days, the land, living
Jungle
with the
Cruise,
land.
I believe you mean.
What did I say?
Jungle Book.
Oh, I always say that when we're in the park. I say, do you want to go on Jungle Book? I don't know.
I do.
I don't know what's with
But
my
yeah,
brain
the
and
Jungle
and
Cruise
that,
and
but
the
yes,
land,
Jungle
yeah.
Cruise and the old
old-
backstage tour
Mhm.
at Hollywood Studios.
Oh,
Really,
that's right, yeah.
made or break, made or broken.
Made or broke, or you could say make and break.
That sounds terrible. You know what I mean. By the cast member. And sometimes, Great Movie Ride was another one like that.
Mhm.
Because sometimes you would just get someone and you were like, how did they get this role?
You're not naming like six.
No,
six
I'm just
roles
talking
here.
about roles where you
know.
have a memorized spiel. You
I
can
know.
still talk about your things.
Okay.
Anyway, Pat definitely made the ride, and she just made everything adorable and cute, and you just wanted to move right into Alice's Wonderland or Geppetto's workshop or Mr. Toad's house. And I would love, I think, doing that because, I am shy, believe it or not. People who know me in real life know that. It's taken a lot for me to get to this point where I'm in front of a camera. But I also definitely loved, when I was growing up, public speaking and being in drama and stuff like that. Something happened to mess with my brain, but I still love, my kids know I do silly voices around the house and stuff like that.
That is true.
I think it would be a fun role. I should probably memorize that.
But
spiel.
in addition, I would say that's probably one of the most beautiful areas
Yeah,
within the park.
definitely.
And being able to just be surrounded by, especially with all of the little miniature trees and all the bushes that are
succulents.
where the people that take care of those, they go to such meticulous lengths to snip, snip.
And
Each
ducks.
of the little, yeah, that's right. And the ducks that take over the Hyde Park area.
And all of Fantasyland, to me, has always had fun costumes. They have a fun jacket there when it's colder out, too. So
And
that's an important part of the role for me, is the costume.
I would say also, you're also kind of around a whole other attraction, the
Yeah,
Casey Jr.
Casey Jr.
Circus Train.
I wonder if they do, if they switch between
They
the
do.
two. Oh, well, there you go.
I am very well aware of this, and I'll explain to you that later.
Okay. Well, that's my first pick then.
But I would say that actually kind of segues into my first pick, because I did mention the Casey Jr. Circus Train, and no, that's not my my pick, but it's a railroad.
Oh, yeah.
People that operate the railroad, specifically the Disneyland Railroad and the Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom Railroad. There are a lot of other railroads all around as well, of course, at Hong Kong Disneyland and Animal Kingdom. Both of those are actually diesel trains. The Tokyo Disneyland and the Disneyland Paris, as well as the two first ones I mentioned, are all steam. And yeah, that's basically, this is an iconic Disney role. And it's the role that you could even say that kind of started it all, because it was, Walt's fascination with trains. He was, his, I believe his uncle was a railroad engineer. And he would, always go to the train station that was going through Marceline, Missouri, and he would even hop on the train and, go part ways across the country. And, Walt's fascination with trains led to Disneyland, and to me that is the iconic attraction at Disneyland Park. And so to me this is the iconic role, and to be able to work with these giant steam locomotives and all of the intricate parts that are involved,
and you get cool overalls.
Oh yeah.
And a hat.
Yeah, I've actually had the fortune to take the backstage tour that they offer for behind the steam trains tour 3 times.
Wow.
And they take you back to the roundhouse.
That's early in the morning, if I recall.
Very early, yes.
I have never done that.
And so you get to see everything that's going on, and you get to see the locomotives up close, and then they take you to the roundhouse in the back where they take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just beautiful pieces of machinery that are very delicate and have very intricate parts, and they get to work with them all day.
Pretty cool.
There's they do have the other role that the folks that aren't in the cab, that have the white and the blue, the blue vest and the conductor hat and all that.
I used to see them in the break room all the time.
That they also have cool roles too,
Yeah.
and I would kind of lump that in. They do the signals to say when the train starts and stops and all that. So, to me, that is one of a fun Disney role that I would love to do.
Very good. Good choice.
Thank you.
Okay. My next one is going to be, I think a lot of people have this as a dream role, which is basically a VIP guide.
What?
Really? You put that on there?
Of course. But don't worry. I mean, I've got a lot. So.
I can't see you doing that.
No, I can't see myself doing it. But I've seen people do it, and it looks like a lot of fun.
I can
And
see you
what.
doing like traditions training, which I've told you many times you should try to do that, because
I'm
you
also
have such
very shy, and
vast knowledge.
I do.
I know
mean,
you.
Wait.
Well, anyway, back to my thing.
Yes, please.
A plaid, if you will,
Yes.
which guest relations is one thing, which I have done that sort of thing in past jobs, and I can, believe it or not, handle people being irate, which is probably happening a lot more these days. Sadly, those people deserve a raise for sure. But I'm speaking more of the ones that do the fun tours, like you just mentioned, and VIP tours as well. There's a bunch of different. I'll take any plaid. That's fine.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's the ones that actually do, take actual celebrities that can't go through the park any other way.
Right.
But then there's also the ones where we recently had a full day where we had a plaid at our disposal, and we were able to, basically have 7 hours going around to any of the parks that we wanted. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that is
you need to have
VIP.
a ton of personality to deal with that, because like for us, we weren't very talkative on our tour, and I felt bad because my kids just don't speak up, and I don't even remember who was with us that day. I don't think Sophia was there.
No, she was not. But it was the rest of us. But I kind of made up for that.
Yeah, that's true. You tried to keep her entertained. But anyway, I would not want to do it for meeting celebrities, because I'm not starstruck by anyone, really.
And
it would be just for the imparting Disney history and knowledge. And I think that would be a fun
and that's the
role.
thing. That's the part that I would absolutely love,
And they
is to
have
be
cool
able
hats,
to
too.
just, especially like behind the scenes tours, or like walk in Walt's footsteps or something like that.
And we could make sure there was no like misinformation or urban legends
'cause
going out
in
there.
that last one that we did, there was one where I had to later go and correct one of them.
Exactly.
Whoops. But yeah, being able to pass forth the knowledge.
Right.
Basically,
I want to be the icon representing me in our podcast logo.
Oh, that's right. I love that.
So yes, that's my second one. What's yours going to be?
That's a good one. Well, I will touch upon one that you spoke about earlier when you rattled off 9 different roles.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. And that is the Jungle Cruise skipper. To me, that's just certainly an iconic Disney role, but it's also one. I guess it's similar, as you would say, to the Storybook Land canal boats, but just with a different terrain.
Yeah, and you have to be funny.
Yes.
Like you have to have good timing. You have to have a sense of like how to deliver a line, basically.
Because, as you said, a Jungle Cruise skipper, as well as other roles, can make or break a person's...
make or break. That's what I was trying to say.
I don't know what you said, but it's that. But you use past tense.
Okay.
But yes, can make or break a person's enjoyment of that attraction.
Right.
And, so it's a very fine line. And to be able, I would like to just be able to ride multiple ones, find out which ones made it, not broke it, and kind of like emulate what they do.
Yeah.
And I've had many really good successful ones that have done different things. I've had one where they've done deadpan the whole way, or one where they would have like a common theme, like a joke that they would have a callback to several times, It would be funny. Or, some people actually do go off script a little bit, but you can't go too far off script.
Right.
It still has to be funny and appropriate. Because one time, I actually rode the Storybook Land Canal boats, and it was like the last tour of the day. And they saw that there were no kids. And so they thought, I'll shy away from the script. I know that they actually had family with them also.
Oh, geez.
And they tried to be a Jungle Cruise skipper, but for the Storybook Land Canal boats. And I was expecting, the spiel that they do. I was not happy.
It's not universal,
That was a
folks.
one-time. I did let guest relations
I'm sure that
know
you did.
about that.
Scott is a stickler for those sorts of things.
Yes, because Storybook Land Canal boats has a spiel. But the thing about the Jungle Cruise, standard spiel. Jungle Cruise does have a standard spiel, but they've got a lot of leeway, a lot of choices.
Right. And I think we've been on where, I loved the first time I heard, because it wasn't always like this, but in, maybe the past 10 years or so, the first time I heard, I'd like to point out some of my favorite plants or trees or whatever. There's that one.
Yeah.
That one. And the first time I heard it, I thought it was hysterical. But then some people will do that same thing, and it's just, it doesn't land at all. Yeah. So it
really is
a very
in the delivery.
Delicate balance.
And I'm not saying that I could do that.
Well, I mean, these aren't roles that we would get. These are roles that
maybe I could.
Yeah.
Maybe I would fall flat, but I'd like to give it a whirl.
You do have that sort of sense of humor most of the time, so
I'd like to think I could do a pretty good job with that.
All right. Well, next up for me is one that it was probably not something that most people would choose as a dream job, but maybe they would.
I'm intrigued.
Back when I first moved down here, I had graduated from college in Massachusetts with a degree in travel and tourism management.
Ooh.
So the first role I was offered when I went to casting, that fun pink building, back when you could go in to get a job, not just do it online, they offered me front desk at All-Star Music Resort.
And is that your choice?
No.
Front desk at All-Star Music?
I probably have written about this on the blog, but I was probably at the time still skinnier than I am now, like a size 14, which, was different because I hadn't had kids yet. Things were in different places, let's say. I don't know. This was 1995. They had not passed any sort of everyone can work here and we'll find a costume to fit you because that's the way it should be kind of thing. It was, these costumes go up to this size, and if you don't fit in it, can't get the role.
Yeah, I can say now, working in costuming, they absolutely accommodate for all shapes and sizes.
So
currently,
I had to go to the costuming building for for All-Star Resorts, which had all of the different costumes.
Right.
And back then, I don't know what it is now, but back then it was just a little straight skirt, a blue skirt, and it had little pleats right here.
Okay.
And the pleats, according to the woman that went with me to try it on, had to be flat. And for me, they were up a little bit. I'm not exaggerating. This is exactly what happened.
Yeah, this was the mid-90s, so I totally believe it.
Ever so slightly, and she said no. And that was whatever the highest size from, which I think was a 12, because then that's why I got the Main Street role, because this used to be my ultimate shame, but I'm now, freely talking about it. This is my therapy. That's why I was then given the Main Street job, because their costumes had more give, because they went up to, I believe at the time, like a 16 or something like that. So yeah, I eventually lost weight because it was my goal to then get into a different role. And I was down to a much smaller size on Main Street, which I don't have any photos of. But anyway, back to my story. The thought of working at the front desk was appealing. When it was first offered to me, I was like, oh wow, this would actually be really cool. And I've learned about this in college and my travel and tourism things. Like, I understand it. It would be a great way to interact with guests, but not have to be in all the hustle and bustle of the parks. And, you know, I would be making people happy, checking them in, and all this stuff. So I was genuinely excited about it. And then those hopes were dashed. But I never went back to that. As I've mentioned before, my time on Main Street, I had like a few too many calling out sick moments, which prevented me from being able to transfer to another role. So I never followed up on that. But I do think even today, as this long drawn out way of getting to this point, it would be fun to work concierge at a hotel. Concierge specifically because then you have less chance of dealing with irate people.
Yeah, you're dealing with basically essentially doing anything that a guest wants. And
answering information, you know, a lot of the times.
I was saying,
like that,
and have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
Have a lot of the leeway to be able to make a lot of dreams come true.
Exactly. It would be fun.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy the idea of, you know, hotel management and stuff like that. I've never thought of going back into that, but I still think it would be a fun role. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, okay. I will give you a little bit of history on when I first went to casting as well. Because I was not initially given the role of ice cream salesperson. I was interested in attractions initially.
Of course.
I mean, to me, that's like the thing to do.
Right.
A lot of the guests, they come to the parks for attractions. And so I wanted to be part of that. And they actually offered me a role in attractions.
What was it?
They offered me to work at Davy Crockett Explorer Canoes. Can you imagine?
I mean, I think you would have been
pretty
cute.
Had the they actually had the shirts that kind of exposed a little bit of the chest. I don't really have any chest hair, so that would have been weird. But they had the little coonskin caps and the buckskin pants and that kind of thing. But I was thinking, that ride isn't always open. A lot of times it's closed. It's kind of seasonal. And so I was thinking that without really doing any investigating, that if I took that role, that I would love it, but that there would be times when I would have no job. Yeah, I'm sure that
they probably cross-utilized them to work in other things. But probably would have gotten to work in Splash Mountain.
Well, this was before Splash Mountain.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Splash Mountain, as you remember, opened at Disney World 1992.
Wow.
And this was 1990 when I first went to casting. A long time ago. So, but I didn't know about cross-utilization or anything like that. I thought if I'm working at the Explorer Canoes, that's my job. And if it's closed, then you stay home. But that was dumb of me to think that. So I who knows where I would be now. I'm sure I'd still be here with you. But I would buffer arms and going around.
That's
and so
true.
that kind of goes
very
along
strenuous.
with my next role, which is any kind of a boat captain, including the Davy Crockett Explorer Canoes, but also, friendship boats, the boats that sail across the Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake.
Our pal Michael Crawford was a friendship boat captain.
And in some ways, he was also a Mike Fink keelboats skipper. So there's that. There's the Tom Sawyer rafts, or rafts to Tom Sawyer Island. There's, the Mark Twain beloved Mississippi steam whaler at Disneyland, or the Liberty Bell, Magic Kingdom, or just anything that is on water.
I agree. I'm mad that I didn't think of that, because that would be fun.
Yeah.
Although driving anything, I probably would be very worried that I would.
They would train you.
Especially the friendship boats. I've been on some of those where they hit the dock quite a few times, but I guess that's okay. So. And
then there was also the incident on Christmas Day, Disneyland 1997, with the SS Columbia, or the sailing ship Columbia. But we won't talk about that just yet. Although my buddy Greg, he was actually working as a Columbia, the sailing ship Columbia
Captain
or boat's person or whatever you'd call it when all of that happened.
I don't know what you're talking about, so I guess we'll find out.
It was an
soon.
accident. Yeah.
Okay.
It was sad. But anyway, but that was, to me, to sail the oceans of Disney World and Disneyland.
Yes.
Being in the open breeze and all of that. To me, that is an iconic role.
Sounds good. Well, that brings us to my next one, which I think is similar in that we're driving something, and that would be, believe it or not, monorail driver.
Oh, what?
I know, that's kind of like a boy job traditionally. You boys always want to drive
I wonder
trains.
if that was initially a boys-only job.
Well, I'm sure back in the day at Disneyland, because like girls couldn't do things like that back then. But I will say that I would definitely prefer to be a monorail driver in Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
Just because those are really cool and get to go
to me,
all sorts of crazy ways.
That's an attraction.
Right.
Even though they do have multiple stops. To me, that's an attraction.
Yeah,
whereas
I mean,
at
it's
Disney
listed as
World,
one.
it's transportation.
Yes. And I mean, in Walt Disney World, I guess you would have the pleasure of quiet time because no one can go in the front with you, but that would not be the case in Disneyland.
I love riding up front.
I know, it's very fun. But, tragically, that cannot be down here.
Another accident.
Yes.
Touching on all of these.
A very tragic episode.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say about it. I just think it would be really cool and fun, and you get to beep the horn in Disneyland.
I love that. And what's really neat about the one at Disneyland is, have you ever just like stood underneath a monorail and seen how tiny they are?
Oh, especially in Disneyland. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Disneyland, specifically. It's amazing that they have
and how close they are to the ground in places.
They have these giant monorail cars that have hundreds of guests on them on this tiny little rail that supports it.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, being able to go around the Matterhorn and the submarine voyage area and the Autopia, and then even kind of go out along Harbor Boulevard and through California
into the real
Adventure
world.
and across Disneyland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. But then, of course, at Disney World, there's a lot more miles going, doing the Epcot loop.
The Epcot loop would be fun.
That would be fun. And, of course, the resorts. Well, you took one of mine.
That's okay.
That is okay.
I'm sure you have backups.
I actually do have backups. I'll go back to that one that we talked about earlier as well. I'm going to say it. Custodial. But I'm going to put an asterisk on this one because there's certain aspects of custodial.
You're not really jonesing to clean the bathrooms out?
Not so
these
much.
days?
But I will tell you, I have cross-utilized in a custodial role and was given a pan and broom.
Mm.
Basically sweeping up whatever. Sweeping
cigarette
up
butts.
Trash.
Back in the day.
There shouldn't be any cigarette butts, but yes, I would often do that. But just having the freedom to literally walk around the park.
That's true.
Now, I should say, when you have this role, you actually are given a zone, and you need to stick within that zone.
You can't wander around to the other
so
side.
I probably had a little bit of extra freedom to wander the entire park. But in doing so, I mean, I kept that park clean because I went to little corners that nobody had seen. That had trash in them. But the really cool thing is just being out and about with guests. And you may not realize this, or maybe you do, but custodial, they actually have more face-to-face interaction with guests than really any other role.
I do realize that.
Good job. And
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they get stopped because they're everywhere, and they get stopped all the time to ask questions.
Which is, of course, why they did recently introduce these fun things that they do, painting the characters with their little brooms.
Yeah.
But I've done it, and it's really fun. Pan and broom.
To a point.
Pan and broom, specifically. There are other people that, they have the little scrapers, like if they come
yeah.
across gum that's like stuck
And
somewhere.
the nabby grabber.
That's right. A lot of the salaried folks or the kind of the managers
Right.
who are area managers would have the nabby grabbers just to be able to pick up a piece of trash.
So they look like they're keeping up the
Yeah.
park.
No,
we
it's
should
just-
say for those that may not know that cross-utilization is something that Disney calls basically when you're trained in other roles so that if needed, you can fill in for someone, or you can just choose on your own, like, hey, I want to pick up a shift in Tomorrowland, even though I work on Main Street
That's
or
right.
at another park.
But in addition to that, especially during really busy periods
Yes.
like Christmas and Easter
Management.
and New Year's and things like that, when the parks are just jam-packed with guests, which is not currently, they would need more people.
Right.
And so folks who had kind of like office roles, they would be required
Yeah,
to pick up a shift,
exactly.
at least one shift during each one of those seasons. And
I think that's a great thing that should
yeah.
happen anyway, because it keeps them.
keeps it real
Yeah.
so that they're not completely just
Like,
protected.
If you have to work a popcorn stand for an 8-hour
And
shift.
I've done
then-
that. I've done even things like stroller straightening because where you're kind of assigned like a particular stroller parking area and you got to keep the
yes.
strollers parked in order, because it'll become a chaos and a mess if it's not managed.
Yes, understandable.
On especially busy days, I've filled drinks in restaurants or bussed tables. I've done all kinds of roles in my various cross-U, but that one, Tandem Room,
Okay,
is to me tops.
very good. Well, that brings us to my last entry.
Wait, what? I have
So
like 9 more.
No, you need to narrow it down to one more after this. This is my ultimate dream goal to this day. And maybe not right now, because things are kind of crazy right now and so many have lost their jobs. However, being in Imagineering, specifically for me, you can say that still. I'm sure we would not be doing the same thing. In story, in creative, I don't know
Okay.
what they call it. Whatever Jason
believe
Sorrell used to do.
He was a writer.
Okay. Show writer, I guess,
show writer,
is
yeah.
what they call it. That's right. I have always been a creative writer. I haven't
That is
done it
true.
in recent years because I keep not wanting to write
You,
something that no one wants to read. So I've just pushed that down. But at
You-
some point I will write a
your
book.
writing is creative.
But
I mean,
most of what
I know
I've
what
written
you're
on the
saying.
blog is like personal stuff, like
But
firsthand account things. It's not fictional, but I do
Sure.
have within me fictional things. Whenever
my.
I am driving in a car and looking out the window or just anywhere new, most of the time I'm constantly thinking in my head of a backstory. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I would love to come up with, the backstory for Pleasure Island or the backstory for a new land, things like that. Even
Interesting.
silly little, everything at Disney has a backstory.
Oh, yeah.
So even a merchandise cart sometimes has a backstory.
That is absolutely true.
And restaurants, of course, they like in recent times to give restaurants a huge backstory. Whether
Indeed.
it's just, this is representative of times back in, at the old cotton mills, back in whatever time period, at boat rights and things
the
like that.
1880s.
Okay. I would have to do research, obviously, depending on the assignment. But I do not have the schooling or the experience to ever get hired for that role. But it is something that I wish that I did have the schooling and experience to get hired
You
for.
would be exceptional at that.
I think it would be an amazing job.
But, yeah, you would have access to all the resources that you would need to excel at that too.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my issue with Disney for so long, is that you have to have experience to be given a chance in a lot of things, unless, and this is a good thing for people that have stuck with it and been with the company forever, if you start out selling ice cream, you can end up being an Imagineer, as we know. Based
I am
on
not
your
an Imagineer currently.
experience and, interests and what you want to push yourself for. They definitely do promote from within.
Very much
things
so,
like
yes.
that. So
A lot of room for improvement. And that's the thing about Disney is there's just so many roles.
yeah,
The opportunities are endless.
it is one of my biggest regrets that I could not stick with it and endure the annoying things I endured on Main Street USA. I would have had whatever 1995 to now years with the company.
That would have been about 25.
There you go.
I'm currently at
But
30
maybe I would be unemployed
myself.
right now. Who knows? Anyway, lots
Yeah.
of what ifs out there in the world.
Stick-to-itiveness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at it for 30 years, and I still haven't gotten it right. But but no, I have a lot of fun. Well, very good. I mean, I was going to say the Imagineering part that I was going to say, and I'm not going to count this as one because
Okay.
I have others, is the SQS, or show quality services. Or show quality standards, I'm sorry. Basically, folks who basically look at the show that Imagineers have created to
Yes.
present to guests and to essentially make sure that it is still up to snuff. To be, almost like riding a ride and making sure all of the effects work and all of the lighting is correct and all of the sound is correct.
Much needed
Oh, yeah.
in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times when the SQS budget has
Right.
been there and other times when it has not.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's like super important because it's
It's one of the keys.
maintaining the
Quality.
show quality, to make sure they're up to the standards that we have initially set when the Imagineers have created that. So, to me, that's something that I would love to do.
Yeah,
and of course,
I think you would be amazing at that.
Oh, thanks.
I'll put in a good word for you
Thanks.
when I get my Imagineering job.
And of course, there's also the folks that do all of the designing.
Yes.
To me, that's really cool. To
Yeah,
be able to, basically take a blank sheet of paper and
Right.
create like an attraction.
Yeah.
Or
There's so many parts of Imagineering that aren't even really creative. They're just like the mechanical side, like the matter of fact nuts and bolts, if you will, of how to create an attraction, a restaurant, a bathroom, all of those sorts of things.
That is true.
There's so many. There's Imagineers in accounting.
They say there's 140 different disciplines within the Imagineering. I have not seen the list of 140, but
they keep it under wraps.
That's true. But anyway, that was not my official one. See how I got an extra one in there?
Okay.
I would say to me, and I do have a lot more, and I'll probably just kind of rattle them off at the end, but my last one will be Haunted Mansion Butler. To me, another classic, iconic Disney role. I should say a maid or a butler, depending upon your gender. But to be able to, work in a classic Disney attraction and almost kind of like do a little bit of an actory role.
Right. That's really what inspired this episode, was that particular role.
And especially during the Halloween times, or even Mickey's not so scary Halloween party, when they get to have the makeup done, where they kind of look
cobwebs all over them.
Yeah, cobwebs all over them, and where they look kind of like they belong in the Haunted Mansion, like they
Undead.
are one of the 999 happy haunts that came to life to man the attraction, or woman the attraction, if you will.
Two-person the attraction.
But especially just working in, as I said, an iconic Disney role, and like at night times when it gets creepy, and to be able to have the ability to kind of act out the part, to put on the show for all of the guests to enjoy. And, because I'm sure you've been to the Haunted Mansion when you've seen a Haunted Mansion butler or maid that is like really into it, and it's just like, it's essentially part of the show.
Yeah. I've had some great ones that still haunt me to this day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was this one time I remember, it was in the stretching room, and sometimes they were given the leeway to essentially kind of sneak up behind a guest and kind of like get into a staring contest. kind of, but have a very straight face. And one time, I had people with me, so they can vouch for me on this one. I've always wanted them to like come to me and like have a staring contest with me.
You are good at staring contests.
It actually happened one time, and he kind of snuck up behind me, and I was kind of anticipating it. And we had a little showdown, and everyone was watching, and I would not break down. And eventually, he did.
You can be creepy.
Yes, because I was creepy. Yeah, I kind of gave him a little stink eye. And made him break. But it was awesome.
Very fun.
So, yeah. Haunted Mansion Butler or Maid. To me, that's just a really great role.
I agree. Are you going to rattle off the rest of yours? Because I don't have any more. That was my last one.
Okay. I'll just say a couple other ones, and I won't go into too much description. Okay. I would say, just like Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean is another classic Disney attraction. And to me, being able to work in such an iconic role, an iconic Disney attraction, Pirates of the Caribbean, especially at Disneyland.
They have fun socks as well. With
the socks and the little caps.
I wanted to do that a lot when I worked at Magic Kingdom too. I always admired them in the tunnel with their socks.
So is that, I would also say Kilimanjaro Safari's driver, just because that's like my favorite attraction kind of at Disney World, just because of how huge and vast, and being able to see animals. And
it's different every time, really.
It's different every time. And you go around one time and the cheetahs are, sprinting back and forth, and the next time they're sedentary, but maybe now the lions are wrestling with each other. Or you see, like rhinos are in the track again, and you have to wait for them to get out of the way.
Traffic jam.
That's right. Or giraffes are like poking their necks in the actual vehicles and nibbling on the guests' hats or something like that. Maybe that hasn't happened, but I have seen them kind of block the way. But yeah, just that to me is just a really fun, I would think, there's a huge spiel involved with that one.
Which has changed over time. It's not
changed vastly.
I think they've added in a lot more facts.
Yes.
Which I think almost they kind of need to update it more, because people are now like memorizing those facts, and it needs to be refreshed, in my opinion.
I agree.
I could write this.
And once again, there are Kilimanjaro Safari's drivers who spout off all the facts, but then they also make it such a very special ride as well. That they do it in such a way that's like, wow, this is just really cool. And there are others where it's just facts, and that's okay. I was going to also say the Disneyland or Walt Disney World ambassador, which is...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, which is a little bit different than the guest relations or the VIP roles. This is basically a cast member chosen through a very...
rigorous selection process.
Absolutely. I have had many people tell me that, I would be great for that. I don't know about that. I don't think I'm outgoing enough. But they get to be involved in so many things. Any celebration or opening or... And
they do a lot of work with charities and things like that. Like
absolutely.
They do a lot of
they
volunteering.
They essentially represent all cast members. And they get to be there for it all. So to me, that's a great role. I would also say in the recent openings of Pandora, World of Avatar, as well as Galaxy's Edge, anyone that has a role in those areas where they kind of get to create a backstory for themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Those are fun.
Would be a fun thing. It's also kind of a new, kind of like the hip-hop happening places within Disney World. I would even say being friends with a face character might be interesting and fun.
Who would you be friends with?
I don't know. I never thought about it.
Maybe if they did a Davy Crockett face character, you could do that.
Yeah.
Once when I was
Gaston. That's a good one. I could not be Gaston, and I'm not saying I couldn't.
No, I don't think so. I think they give you muscles though, so you don't have to worry about that. When I was in the tunnel back in 1995, and I was not in the college program, but I was that same age, like 21, 22. And so I had a lot of friends that were college program people, and a lot of them were in the zoo, if you will, which is the non-face characters. And there was auditions coming up for face characters. And one of them was the fairy godmother. And one of my friends told me that I would be great for the fairy godmother, which is not what you want to hear when you're 21 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I've always had these big cheeks, so maybe that's why. But now I think I'd make a great fairy godmother at my ripe old age.
Is that at Disneyland, the fairy godmother is not a face character.
In our Disneyland or Tokyo Disneyland?
Or one of them.
It's Tokyo Disneyland.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Our Disneyland, she's a face character.
Okay.
Tokyo Disneyland has the face. And that's probably so that
very interesting.
It does not have to be an American person that is
They
playing
usually have Americans that are
that's
they ship
true,
over there, that are friends with all of those.
Maybe they run out.
And I was also thinking Bert.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. You could be an older retired Bert, perhaps. I mean, he's a young, spry gentleman in the movie, you know.
He's a chimney sweep.
Yeah, that's funny.
Thank you. And then I will end it off with the classic, the iconic. And these are the people that know absolutely all the secrets and the backstories and the things that
all of their rumors are true.
Nobody has ever announced. These people are given all of that information that they are able to share with all of the guests, and that is bus drivers and security guards.
You're fine with either one of those?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I would say both of them have the ability to kind of go all around and see kind of some fun areas. Security, they're certainly right up there with the guests, but they apparently have been told everything, and they know all of the things, and sometimes they share them with you probably didn't see this announcement, but I assure you this is coming.
That's true.
Or something like that.
That's very true. Not all, we should say.
No,
some of them are wonderful.
But in all honesty, those roles
I know you would love to be a bus driver.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to be a bus driver at Fort Wilderness.
Ooh, yes.
That would be fun.
I agree with that.
All right. Well, I mean, that we could go on forever if we are getting down to bus drivers and security guards. I think we've named almost every role anyway, perhaps.
We have not.
We didn't do much food service things.
Yeah.
But let us know what your favorite roles or what you wish you could do if you worked at Disney in some capacity. We didn't talk about PhotoPass either. That's what Christian did. But
I think that would be awesome.
That would be fun. I would like to be a PhotoPass person that actually took good photos. That would be good.
Yeah.
It really is hit or miss with those people. Sometimes you just get your head cut off and it's not centered and it's blurry.
No, they should never cut off your head.
I know. But you just don't know until later. And anyway, like with, bus drivers, not everyone is like that. Before we go, we have a trivia answer from last week's episode.
That's right.
We brought back the trivia corner.
Do you remember how you worded it that last time in the blog post? Because that was done so very well.
I basically said that it was a voice of an animatronic as well as a voice of a character doing the same song.
In the same park.
In the same park, in different lands.
At the same time.
What was those characters, I guess, is what you were asking?
I said, what are the attractions? But basically,
what are the attractions?
I'm looking for it all.
The bonus
what park,
was,
what are the two lands?
What was the
what
song?
Are the attractions? Who is the person
right
who sings this?
And I think you've kept people waiting long enough.
Everybody has got to know what this is. And of course, I'm talking about America Sings.
Which we just spoke about
extinct
on
attraction.
The original podcast. I think.
There was in one of the segments a pig voiced by Betty Taylor, who sang
Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey, that's right. Bill Bailey, won't you please come home?
Yes.
And that same actress
performer,
Betty Taylor, performed in the Golden Horseshoe Revue in Frontierland, also an extinct attraction at Disneyland. And she would perform that same song in the review there.
Crazy.
So
what are the odds?
Frontierland and Tomorrowland, America Sings and Golden Horseshoe Review, Betty Taylor. And as Slewfoot Sue and whatever the pig's name was, because I don't know if it had a
Well, if you know the pig's name, you get bonus points, so let us know.
That's right.
Well, there you go. I mean, that was a very complicated question for a very fun and unique trivia question.
That's right.
All right. Well, we thank you, as always, for joining us. If you are listening to us, please give us a like or rating wherever you're listening to us, on Apple or Google Podcasts or wherever. It helps spread the word about Up the Waterfall. If you're watching the video, hello. We would love if you liked this video, subscribed to Zannaland on YouTube, left us a comment to let us know what you thought, and of course, tell your friends.
Please.
The more the merrier that are
Indeed.
listening to this fun little show we do. Thank you again for joining us. Hope everyone has a wonderful and happy Halloween. This is our last episode of Halloween set. Will we go right into Christmas? You'll have to find out.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Thank you for joining us, as always, Up the Waterfall.
Bye now.